This is the story of the Mistress of the Copper Mountains and its author Pavel Bazhov, who escaped Stalin's Great Purge. Stepan, a worker at a mine in the Ural Mountains, is visited by the Malachite maid and told to relay this message to his bailiff. The Mistress of the Copper Mountain orders you, ye stinking goat, to get out of Krasnogorka mine, or I shall sink all the copper in Gumeshki so deep you'll never find it again. Tell him that, and I'll marry you. She then changed into a lizard and crawled up a big pile of rocks. This is how Pavel Bazhov introduced the Mistress. His muse-like nature spirit, protector of the mountain's precious stones and minerals, and patron of decent working folk. In his collection of tales from the Urals, grounded in the mining and mountain folklore he heard as a child, and based on his extensive research on his people's folklore, Bazhov created an original piece of literature that has fascinated millions. Once Stepan delivered the mistress's message, the bailiff had him flogged and chained to a worthless part of the mine, and given an impossible quota to meet. Lucky for him, the mistress appeared, and while her lizards did all his work, she invited him into her home at the heart of the mountain, and offered him a dowry big enough for a tsar. Tempted though he was, he refused the offer of marriage, seeing as he was promised to another. "True heart, Stepanushko," she said, "I praised ye for the bailiff, but I have double praise for this. You didn't snatch at my wealth, you didn't give up your Nastasia for a maid of stone." As a reward, she gave him a malachite casket full of jewels and ornaments of every kind, a gift for his beloved, and for him a handful of tears that changed into copper emeralds, and one final request. "Beware, see you don't get thinking and remembering me after. That'll be my third test." At the height of Stalin's Great Purge, Bazhov received a summons to the NKVD, a forerunner of the KGB. He arrived at the appointed time, but after waiting for several hours, he realized that they had forgotten about him. Bazhov quietly went home, and with his wife Valentina spent a year in isolation, surviving solely on her sister's meager teacher's salary. He worked in their vegetable patch by day, composing his stories in his head, and wrote them down at night. But some of his colleagues and contemporaries weren't so lucky. Many would have surely ended up in the Gulag. Narrowly escaping such a fate, he created stories in which he highlighted the similarities between the suffering of miners in the era of serfdom and the forced use of labor in Soviet mines. Back in the mine, Stepan's bailiff kept asking him for more and more riches until one day the master of the mine caught wind of this and went there himself. He promised him freedom from his serfdom, in exchange for a piece of malachite big enough to make columns 35 feet long. Stepan negotiated for the agreement to include his beloved Nastasia, and with the help of the mistress herself, completed his work in the mine. The malachite was made into columns, which the master gifted to the biggest church in St. Petersburg. When Stepan left, so did the riches in the mine. He and Nastasia married, made a home for themselves, and had 3 children, but all the while he was rarely, if ever, happy. His health and strength slowly went away, until one day he went hunting in the mountains and didn't come back. People found him dead by a great rock where the mistress first came to him, and he had a smile on his face. The copper emeralds that were in his hands crumbled into dust. Beside him they saw a great green lizard, crying over his lifeless body. The storyteller ends the tale by saying, "That's what she's like, the mistress of the Copper Mountain. It's a chancy thing to meet her. It brings woe to a bad man, and for a good one, as little joy comes of it." Stepan escaped the mines, but the malachite and its mistress fatally entered his body and mind, and kept his spirit inside the mountain for the rest of his life. If you want to learn more, I recommend the book Russian Magic Tales from Pushkin to Platonov, as well as the thesis Iron Bridge and Digging Deep by Rebecca Hurst. Join me in the next video, where I'll be talking about the sequel to this tale called The Magic Casket, and what happened to the author after he finally left his sanctuary. Bye bye!